Let the chaos reign.
Chaos Reign presents What are the financial costs of raising an American child? Broadcast January the 12th, 2020. Enjoy.
The views expressed on Talk Real Solutions, hosted by Tyrone Thompson at TalkRealSolutions.com, are the views of Tyrone Thompson and do not reflect the views of TalkRealSolutions.com, YouTube, or etc. The content here belongs to Talk Real Solutions and its many contributors. Views and opinions expressed by all contributors belong to them and not TalkRealSolutions.com or Tyrone Thompson, the host, or etc. All data and information provided on the site is for informational purposes only. Talk Real Solutions makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information on this site and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis.
In a world where there's crime, corruption, violence, rape, murder, and theft, and all other forms of atrocities that plague the world in which we live in today, what you're witnessing, we are living in a state of chaos, and it takes more extreme chaos to restore the order in which the world we live in today. Hello, black people. This is Chaos here, and this is a new year, a new decade, and much more to what we have not witnessed and much more what we will see moving forward in the world we live today. So thank you for listening to today's stream. I would like everybody to go to TalkRealSolutions.com. Under TalkRealSolutions.com, you'll see the 3-point plan for Black empowerment, Black achievement. And under the 3-point plan, there is a list of Black established-owned banks. I believe, and people can correct me on this, the Black established banks right now that we have in this country is shrinking very fast. It went down from the previous year or the year before on the amount of banks that still established as quote-unquote Black-owned, and it's dropping much faster than I expected. I don't think it's 30 banks now. I'm not sure what the count is. I will say this. It might be now down to 20 banks that are still located in America, or it could be lower than that. But no saying in the website, it gives you those lists of the Black banks that's located in a city near you that's Black-owned. So always, do your deep dual research to find if these banks still exist in your city near you. Also on the website, on talkworldsolutions.com, you will also see articles of news and related issues, topics trending, and things political or entertaining on the website as well on talkworldsolutions.com. And, always you can tune in. If you're not into reading the articles, you can tune in into the news every Thursday around 9 o'clock here on Talk World Solutions, where they dove into the latest events with Tyron Thompson and I believe it's Miss Lisa. Also, if you want to find my show and every other show that's on Talk World Solutions, you could go to the YouTube channel itself. You could type in Talk World Solutions on YouTube. There you find all the shows from past, the present, and what we move forward into the future now onto the YouTube channel. So if you want to know more or you want to listen to some things you missed, you can subscribe to Talk World Solutions on YouTube. Another thing, we also have a donation piece where you could contribute to the show. There's a PayPal on the description of this stream on Talk World Solutions on YouTube and also on the website as well. So if you feel the show was appealing and was very informative and hell, even maybe entertaining, put a little money to the show. We like to keep the show going and keep the lights on. Your support helps the growth of this channel. I think that's pretty much it right now. And like always, donate and subscribe and, listen in. And if you miss an episode, don't worry. You can always listen back to TRS Taco Sushi on YouTube. Before I get the title for tonight's show, I would like to say this to all the sisters out here, the ones that feel these new so-called movements that's being created by the so-called black man or the black male here in America, how they are, if they're not already been doing this for the last couple of decades, exploring their options, and they are what is called, quote-unquote, saving themselves. Sisters, you have no worry about the black man here in the Western America in mass numbers saving themselves. And the reason why I say this, to keep it real funky real, because there's nowhere the black man or Negro man can go where he feels he's safe and where he could feel he could just coddle and nest over his greater oppression for other groups of competing groups of racial men. The black male is going to learn the hard way that there's no way he could escape the judgment that he's already facing now and what he will face in the future with this group of men. That only mission is to keep his foot on his neck. I'm telling you that right now. And like I said, the reason why I say this is because I know that I will listen in on other streams, and to the few women that's what they call pro-black or want to see black people thrive and prosper and still see black people, that's not too much to concern at this point. Because at the end of this so-called Negro man is going to probably do what the hell he's going to do anyway. Ain't consent, unfortunately. And the only thing you could do is to get yourself that mate, that black man that you want, You might have to do a little more extra work, but it can be attained. It can be achieved. It won't be hard, So anytime when you hear these dudes talking about say they save themselves because they want nothing to do with the African descent woman here in America, don't fret. You know what I'm saying? There's always other groups of black men that will take you in and will marry. Somebody is at the end of the day, ladies, the Western man, or they call it the ADOS man, has to make a decision at the end of the day. He will not get respect here or anywhere outside this country unless he takes a position in his rightful place to take what we call power and create his own reality as a collective, as a group. Instead of worry about and focus on getting coochie or vagina or yoni, whatever you want to call it. So that's just a little message I'm just giving out for the sisters that if they're concerned, they should not be concerned, because there are millions right now of black men that's descended slave in this country, and some that's foreign black men that's already here already that will still take you in and marry. You might have put in the extra work, but that's nothing that you have to worry about. If you put in the work and you be to yourself, yeah, you're gonna get picked up. I guarantee you. You know. And one other thing I will say to a lot of dudes that talk about say, most sisters don't want, other race men don't want. They will entertain you, and hell, they might even marry you, possibly. But when it comes to us as a collective group, men and women, no other race people are gonna really take us seriously. If they entertain us, it is usually the ones that's the throwaways amongst their group. And I say that comfortably, with honesty, and all that stuff. Because they're at that negative birth rate. And the only way to really bump up the numbers so they don't just completely die off in the next century, they're going to have to copulate with someone that's black, either by force or by force mentally. They got to condition you mentally to love them, more that you sit there and give your body and your genetics. It's not going to go like it was 6, 7, 8 years ago when they took you ladies and just took it, and impregnate you. They gotta really have to sit there, psychological rape you mentally for you to sit there, give your body complete and procreate. That's how it works. And the funny thing, I'm even talking about this, just to ramble a little bit, is that I tell you, man, some of the dudes out here, they feel so that, they are what we consider prize. But no, so you have not put in the work to be considered prize. Besides a good, hay in the set, and a good rumble in the bedroom. But besides that, there's nothing more they see into the black male, obviously. So, like I said, these non-black women don't fool me, Usually if they sit there and say they only entertain and they tell the black male to stroke his ego that he likes and only wants them, it's obviously they tell you that because they can't get their own man. I mean, it's obvious, Not saying that these Negroes are going to get killed like back in old days by looking at or kissing non-black women. It's a little different now. They'll still do it, and they will make a lie about it. But nowadays, they have to start preaching and pushing this amalgamation of other races in this country to create some type of browning of Americans with a little nice little tan. Yeah. And isn't it ironic that they want the lips, the body, mostly the thighs, the booty, the chest, but don't want the skin color? I'm not sure if anybody ever noticed this. I'm starting to notice that they want everything from the essence of the black woman, but don't want that skin color. It's very ironic, funny to think about it. But like I said, they've been conditioning for, like I said, over 500 years when they create the term race. And race was created for one thing and one thing only, to facilitate power. If people don't know how the world works, they got to facilitate their power. And the way you're going to accomplish that, you have to create something to put a barrier over you and other groups of men and women that's not part of your race. That barrier protects them, so that it's like a super caste or a caste shield. Let's say I'm this, I'm over here, you're that, you stay over there. That's how it works. They create that barrier in regards actually of creating what we call races, from saying you are black, they are white, and, use this crayon effect, even go as far as implement what we call a one-drop rule. And I have my own views about the one-drop rule. I mean, like I said, we don't control it. We have to, and I say we because we live here in this country, it's Western world, or anywhere outside where they start labeling people by race, that they go by and create what we call one-drop rule. And it comes to the point now with this one-drop rule, if people really look into it, it was really created and designed for these times. Because if you think about it, once you create something that people have a little percent of Negro blood, they're black, the purpose of that is what we see now. And I'm telling y'all this, they really do this so that way if they know they're going to reach a point where they are having time keeping up population numbers in their own group, they could use that same thing to push other people that are much stronger genetically, and I say much little stronger, to start mixing in with their little weak recessive gene. So that way, creating a buffer class of mixed breeds that eventually, when in time, move out and, copulate with other non-black people or into their own mixed group, which 9/10 time they always seek outside, because usually when you already come from two parents, the whole thing to look and take assimilation more in the society is more wiser to water down more genetically. And that's what most mulattoes have done now for centuries. For the last, I think, over 100 years maybe. I would say greater, but if you look at most of the mulattoes at the time that came out of the womb of the black woman, they were, that's forced creation. Now today, they have to worry about forced creating any mulattoes. They just let our people just do what they do, especially the brothers. Since they were able to get access to non-black women here in this country for the last going on 53 years, since 1967, they heavily gone out more than 3 times than the sisters. And not saying the sisters can't get no non-black men, but, it's like a little psychological game a lot of these dudes talk about. And the reason why they really, and this is me now, why they'll tell the sister that they can't get no man besides them is because they want to go back to something if it goes south with this non-black woman, which it always has, because usually if you're a man and you go on outside the community to procreate outside the race and then things go bad, most times you might go find another one that's the same non-black woman. But on the average, you eventually have to come back to the community you reside just to, still have somewhere to lay their head in. And I think they lay their head in between the legs and the womb of the black woman. And, most brothers that feel that's going to be the availability moving in the future, they better be very careful, because this system already messed up a lot of people mentally, and we just creating the environment within ourselves, using these outlets, these channels, to push us more separate towards each other, or separate ourselves more amongst each other, actually. And we do it ourselves. The enemy doesn't really do that much because he already knows you already have a mental capacity of destruction, and you will inflict harm towards self. So, all this vitriol between the hatred of the sisters and the sisters hating the black men, it doesn't really help us. It doesn't benefit us moving forward. As much as they say that, it talking about and then hoping, shaming each other is going to make us change, I have not seen that happen yet since the days I've been in existence. And people that were much older than me that's been in existence, and I'm not going to see it happen now. And that's just a sad, honest truth. So when these dudes talking about said they want the system to get better, act better, it sounds good. It sounds nice. I wouldn't mind that. I want that. I appreciate that. But we all know, we as black men today, where we don't have an actual positional power and controlling our reality as we see fit, that's not going to happen. So like any man that comes to the conclusion that knows this, like any sissy or what they call the derelict, you run. And you run with your legs between your tail tucked between your legs. And hope say that it's too rough, it's too hard. Let me go over this side and then hope that these other group of men will seek validation and make me feel like a man. And if you have to go somewhere else to feel like a man, then obviously 9/10 of the time, fellas, I'm sorry to say you were not a man from the start. You were not a man from the start. No, sir. No, sir. And it's proven it. Because other groups, man, they watch and keep an eye on this black American Negro man here. They watch us. And they watch our every action, movement, and our talking points to always show how can we continue this nice little mind game with these Negroes. And at the end of the day, you know, I tell most black men they got to stop playing these games. You know, we have to get our act right. But that's enough of my ramble. Let's start and begin with this show. So if my guest is there, can you press *6 1 so I can see you on the queue? Let me see. Give me a second, guys. All right. Tonight's show is titled Chaos Reign presents What Are the Financial Costs of Raising an American Child? And with no further ado, my first guest of this new decade, 2020, I present to you Osasis King. Hello, Osasis. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Peace, chaos. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Welcome to Talk Real Solutions. And you are my first guest of this new decade, this new year. And there are so much things to really go in and I want to say debunking, but to have a better understanding about, you know, children. And really, what does the financial benefit or the cost it will take for the average family, our people, black people, really how much it really costs to raise children, whether you have one child or a couple, in this harsh climate and this economic uncertainty we call America today. But before we go into that, I like to, like every guest that comes in, we like to take a step forward. A step back, actually, before we step forward to the discussion. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Osasis King. I am a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm married. I have a wonderful husband, wonderful children. I'm a mom of 4 boys and 3 girls and 3 daughters. Most of my children are adults. I have a 30-year-old all the way down to a 16-year-old. I'm a homeschooler. I've been homeschooling since 1998. I'm a community gardener. I establish gardens all around the country with other sisters. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. Excellent. The call number for tonight's show, let everybody know, is 712-770-4160. The access code is 915-411 pound. I repeat, 712-770-4160. The access code 915-411 pound. All right, Oasis. As you know, you are a mother, like many mothers here in this country. And I hear from a lot of people, some from the women, but particularly more from the fellas, how it's so expensive to have children in this country. And it's even more expensive just, raise them. And what steps in regards to, which really I don't hear much talk about steps in raising besides the financial aspect of everything. But really, truly, I always hear that say having kids internally in this country is just too much money, And I always hear from these dudes that complain the most. Some don't even have kids. The one that's making these statements. And really, truly, and I hear a number that was projected by not only these so-called low-level Negroes, but through their little, I think it was an article one time. And I remember one woman, she was white. This was years ago. I never told you this. She told me to be comfortable in this country, and this was like over a decade ago, you had to have make almost close to $250,000. And these are like numbers that circulate, thrown out to me, and I just take it in, suck it in to hear what people's take on it. But we really haven't really breaking down to really how, really, and what are proper steps in regards, if you have children, what is the best approach? So tonight we're going to delve into this. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit, and, you could probably give your own take and perspective and breakdown from your own, experience yourself as a mother.
Well, I think I was fortunate enough to come up in a time in the 70s, early 70s, where consumerism and materialism was beginning to open up, but hadn't really took hold in the Black community yet. And so I can remember easily, getting my first pair of Nikes, being, some of the first children in the area that had a pair of, track Nikes, right? But before then, I can remember, children getting their shoes from Sears and JCPenney, the grocery store. And so, I waver there as a parent in what my purchasing is for my own children and what it's been. So I do understand that that the pertinent part of that statement, how much does it cost to raise a child in this country, the pertinent part is in this country, right? Because this is a country that, we're consumer crazy. We're very materialistic. Not to say that other countries aren't materialistic, because a lot of them are. A lot of African countries are very materialistic. A lot of Arabic countries are very materialistic. A lot of European countries are very materialistic. But in this country in particular, and for us in particular, you could easily meet that $250,000. I think I saw a number 233,000 or so, but that's pretty much the same thing. You could very, easily meet and exceed that to raise a child to 18 if you're buying $200 gym shoes for a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. If a 14-year-old doesn't have to get a summer job to buy a special something that he wants, if for every birthday, you're spending an average of $1,100, $1,200 for a child's birthday. If you have a 2-year-old who doesn't know anything about any cartoons, but you're in love with this child having a, whatever party, and you convince yourself that your child absolutely loves this cartoon character and has to have juicy cups and, and every last little thing at their party be in the image of this cartoon character, you could spend $250,000. You could.
I am interrupt. Juice was the nice thing back then, man. I don't know what you're talking about. I like that juice,
Right.
Better than Kool-Aid, I tell you that much, man. For real.
And that that's the thing. Because we can, we do. We don't really stop to say, should we? It's, I can, or if I can, I'm going to find a way to. And because it's possible, we do it. And because, we see it on social media, we see it on television, we convince ourselves that we should do it. I remember, being younger and reading Cinderella and believing that my life was supposed to be like that because somebody, fictitious or not, somebody else's life was like that. And it takes some growing to realize that that's not necessarily the case for everybody. So I think a lot of trying to meet that demand, the acceptance that it takes so much without pondering why it takes, $250,000 to raise a child to 18 years old. Take, for instance, the average cost to feed a 0 month, or newborn to 1-year-old in formula is $1,733, right?
Okay.
Well, minus that from $250,000 if you're a breastfeeding mother. Not everybody can be a breastfeeding mother. So obviously there's going to be, variables in the calculation. But, if you're a breastfeeding mother, you can subtract $1,700 from that amount right there. If you are a mother who by the child's first birthday is not spending $800 on a birthday party, which is very common, to spend, upwards to $1,000 on a first year birthday party. If you're not doing that, then you can subtract another $1,000, that's $2,700 off. And it adds up, it adds up easily. So, it's easy to get to that number, and it's very easy to not. The cost the bigger cost, though, is that when we are so involved in that mindset of materialism, we teach it to our children and perpetuate the cycle. And then we raise children who don't feel that they can invest or have the time to invest into themselves and what their own life path and working for themselves and their own passions will be. They have to work because they have to have the continuation of consumerism. And so we throw them almost by our own addiction to buying and to pleasing. We throw them into kind of a slavery by doing that. So it's it's an even bigger cost than $250,000.
In regards to cutting costs, because everybody's supposed to be fine, and I know in our community, I hear that say black people don't know what to do with money and all stuff. And I say not every black person. Some other people are financially literate to the point to budget properly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a woman, you have to budget, especially if you work. Because not only you have to take care of yourself, but to make sure your children are good. And that takes a lot of work, budget-wise, the little dollar you make. If you're a single or you're in a relationship with a man, it cuts the cost a little bit more. And in regards to just that alone, buying formula, and I think the state sometimes cover WIC. I know a lot of women get WIC. And I think that
some women do. Yeah, some women do.
But don't they have to apply for that to get that, or there's automatic guarantee to get that? Every new child.
Well, you have to apply for it, and you have to financially meet meet the requirement. There's a financial requirement for it. And some. I don't know what it is. I used to be a La Leche League teen mentor, and that is a breastfeeding mentor, right? And part of teaching teaching young, 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds about breastfeeding was also assisting them to receive WIC. And I remember, most girls in that age bracket automatically qualify because they're not financially out of that bracket. So I don't really remember what that was, but I do remember it being pretty wide. I do remember a lot of working women receiving WIC. And a lot of people don't know that if you breastfeed, you automatically qualify for WIC regardless to what your income is.
Okay, that's good.
So, yeah. But that is, a factor that, milk for the first few years and formula for the first year can oftentimes be covered by the state. It's not always, but it can oftentimes be.
And I think it varies. I think it varies from different states. Am I right? In regards to certain programs, it varies from different states. Am I right?
Well, how it's run does tend to vary. Vary by state. But it is, if I'm not mistaken, isn't WIC a federal program?
I believe so. Let me check the chat room. If somebody could verify that. Somebody type in, please. They'll tell me in a second. But I wouldn't be surprised it's a federal thing because, every time you go to hospital.
Yeah, it's a federal assistance program. It is.
Because the government does know every time you send your children to that hospital and you get that birth certificate, you're automatically federal tracked. So they have to keep the numbers. So they have to give you that assistance if it's run federally. For every child, they know the numbers. But that's just me. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, states aren't run as succinctly as that. We put a lot of belief in that. In the cohesiveness and how the governments are ran, but they're not really ran that cohesively. I'll give you, for instance, in Illinois there was a big to-do because there was a truck driver who got into a really bad accident and he killed a bunch of children in a van that their parents were driving. And then they found out that he had gotten a license, illegally through the state, and that there was a licensing, fraudulent licensing thing going on, right? Now, through that, the state kind of discovered also that, whoa, wait a minute, people go to Indiana and get a license. When their license is, messed up here in Illinois, they go to Wisconsin and get a license. They go to Michigan and get a license. They go to all the surrounding states, right, to get a license. And then they found out, well, not only do people do this, but they apply for public assistance here, and then they go to all these surrounding states and apply for public assistance there. Now, since 9/11, a lot of things have tightened up since DHS, the creation of that. But even now, still, the states aren't run nearly as tightly as one would believe, So, yeah, you could easily have a baby that, nobody's tracking, nobody's paying any attention to. You don't have to take them to school. You don't have to do anything. There's plenty of Caucasian children that are, kind of stymied away, and nobody remembers anything about them. No hospital connects to any school, connects to any public service agencies to say, hey, where is this child? So, yeah, plenty of children get lost in the system and, are not thought about in the system. So, it's not, a necessity that, you show up and then they're like, oh, yeah, your child's birth certificate, and we have that information, and so you qualify. So, no.
Okay. Well, I always say, Oasis, the system is never broken. It's always a refined tool. It's operating the way it should be, to our knowledge. And, to understand this so-called Western, or we call this system that we live in, it is a very deep layer to peel. because it's refining and it's always not giving the actual layer or when you peel it off that skin, what it actually looks like.
Right, yeah.
We always continue to assume what it is. But, like I said, it's designed a way to keep us, off balance, keep us guessing, Yeah. I tell people many times it's not perfect, but it's perfect enough to keep us, unaware and, in disarray every time. It changes on you very quickly. You're not careful. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's made well enough. I don't think it's designed well enough to sustain itself if we didn't go along with it. I think it, yeah. If we didn't go along with it, I don't think that it's made well enough at all. It's just that we're compliant. So it's easy to control something and, loosely control something when that thing is compliant. And we are. I mean, we're not the only culture that is. It's American to be compliant. It's American to surrender your rights now. It wasn't, it wasn't once upon a time, but that's very American to not know what's going on and to think that people at an office do and that there's no getting around what they know. But, compliance, you don't even, if you don't know exactly what's in place, you don't know how strongly it is in place. So.
Yeah, indeed. Now, we move on to, in regards to the education piece, in regards to our children. Now, I don't know if anybody knows the actual money average people spend on education with children. I know the budget in America is not the highest priority in regards to fiscal budget. They usually invest more into things to protect the country and do the little dirty work in regards to military. It's the most that gets the majority of the money. Everything else get like portions of this budget every year. Education is not nowhere in the top 10. I could be wrong, or not even close to the top 5. And as people know, since it's not that high priority, you could tell on the average when we talk about our children are getting what we call, quote unquote, the best education man could pay. That is false. Because when you look at the statistics globally, we are actually bottom last in all areas, from reading, math, science, what else? We could also say technology too. You can throw that in there. And all those were, these are things, a necessity for a person to not only compete, but to, in time, sustain oneself. Because if you're not able to read at official level, and I say official, not high level, official level, then you get fooled by signing away certain rights while understanding the written language itself on paper. Also, you could be fooled by what you're actually spending your money because you don't understand of basic math or just the math in itself to really see if you're losing money. And the other portion, like the science and all this other stuff, yeah, if you can't read and write or do the math, it's hard to even go into all the other areas because you need just those two basics. Right. So I'm not gonna. So go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let's see. So in public school, the average cost that they spend per child is about maybe $10,100. Somewhere in there, right? A year. So $10,100 a year, and those children are pretty much last globally. And if you do that for 16 years, 17 years, I think. Most children are leaving high school at 17.
Pre-K to high school, which is I think kindergarten to 12th grade. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
you're looking at you're looking at roughly about 18, 19 years. So a little around 200,000, right? Is what they're saying that they spend on the average child that goes from kindergarten to 12th grade, $200,000. And they're saying that
preschool too, daycare. We had to put that as a cost too.
Yeah, daycare. I think the average was about $600 a month, but it depends on what state. Obviously, so average, but 600 to I think it was maybe $1,100 a month. Now that's not covered by state for a lot of families, but it is covered by the state for a lot of families. So again, when they say that it costs about $233,000 or $250,000 to raise a child, you kind of have to say what child, what class of child are you talking about? Because and overall, I mean, it is costing taxpayers. It is costing somebody to provide this child care. It is costing somebody to provide this public school education. It is costing us as citizens that pay taxes something to raise a child. So, but then you have to ask yourself, okay, if you're spending $200,000 just on the education, then certainly you're not saying that it's only $33,000 to raise them from 0 to 18 at home. So then where do you get this $250,000 figure from? Do you really mean that it costs $455,000? Like, I don't know where exactly they're getting this number from. And then you have to, with education, it's $10,000. That's the national average, unless you're in New York or D.C., and then it's $18,000. So, I'm just leery of how they added up those numbers, how they came to those numbers, and what class of children are they referring to with those numbers. Because single mothers is often the case that they do receive some assistance for child care. Not always, but often the case. And it is often the case that young mothers and single mothers of all races here receive some assistance for feeding the child, whether that be food stamps or WIC or both. So, and if education, again, if it's the national average is 10,000, and again somebody is paying for all aspects of the child, then how is the number only 250,000 or 200 or just 250,000 or not more? So I think if you take you just really have to take families in different socioeconomic classes, and then as far as Black people, and then really look at that and say, how much are you spending minus the vices? How much are you spending minus the consumerism? How much are you spending minus the materialism? And that's going to be difficult to come up with that kind of number because, people don't normally separate their materialism from their necessities. If I say you don't have to spend $150 a month or every 2 months on a pair of gym shoes for your son, you're going to have some sisters that's going to say, I'm not putting my son in any kind of blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's why they end up selling drugs, because you don't buy them, blah, 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 blah. They'll justify their desire to have what they want to have materially. So coming up with that number is just going to be difficult to do. But certainly the average sister and brother in the community is not spending $250,000, for 18 years to raise a child. But then you have some that are spending exponentially more, because Christmas is, $2,000, and each birthday is $800 to $1,000, and school clothes is $1,500, and hair, to get hair done is $150 every, 3 weeks or so. So you got, some families spending exponentially more to raise their children because they're doing so in a materialistic way. So when you ask yourself how much does it really cost, you got to say bare bones or other.
Well, a lot of people that keep pushing this narrative that it costs that much, I think they're saying, and quote me out, and I'm saying this, they're saying this is the cost for one child, mind you. And I'm thinking,
right.
like we thinking right now on this, and we're thinking critically on this, that the numbers don't add up. Because if it costs that much for one child, let's say that's true, okay. Then I got to add the factors of not only the school, but I'd add up the food, the clothing, not just the shelter. Because you got to have some shelter anyway,
Yeah.
And if not, they provide it. Those had to put in equation. Hell, I didn't even go into the medical part, and we're going to go into that in a little second. But just those three things alone, the math don't make sense. If we really want to analyze it. But because people go by the stupid statistics, instead of critically thinking to really crunch out how much for my son or my daughter, and said what they tell me is the so-called average. The numbers don't add up. I know people said people lie, some people lie, wherever, but numbers don't lie. Well, I'm telling you, the numbers really lie in this portion of the show, because it doesn't really add up to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it 100. Yeah.
So let's see the departments, right? So you got home, your home that could be rent or mortgage, right? You got your food, your electric, your water, your trash, your gas, your utilities, basically, right? Your internet and television or whatever. You have your transportation. You have your insurance. You have your programs that you put your children in. Many children are in dance class and karate class, et cetera. You have, let's see what else. I'm sorry, I had a list, but right, all of that. You got, hygiene.
Yeah.
You got hygiene, and all the things you need for your house. You got clothing. So now, when you take into account that the rent or mortgage, the food, the utilities, the transportation is often, if you have 4 members of a house, you have to divide that by 4. That total amount doesn't go for a child. And then you take their own personal things, their hygiene, their programs, their education costs that are in excess of, let's say if they're in public school, things that are in excess of what public school covers. So you have your athletics and, your various programs that they join, cheerleading, whatever, that you spend, you spend good money on that kind of stuff, right? And then you have clothing. Now, obviously, clothing is a huge variable because you have some children who wear uniforms and then the mothers buy, spend for lack of a better word, sensible amount on shoes and, accessories. And then you have some children who don't wear uniforms and who wear what they think is the best or the most name brand things to school. And so you're going to have a huge gap on what that costs and, how much that costs for each family. But if you take just, not even bare bones, but if you just take what the average family who is not, again, materially consumed, then it's going to be significantly less than $250,000. Again, as a mother of 7, I assure you that I have not spent, $1.75 million on raising my children from 0 to 18. And they were involved in everything. They did tons of apprenticeships. They went to tons of music classes. All of them are musically inclined and play instruments, and I paid for lots and lots of tutoring and classes, and I assure you that I did not spend $1.75 million. So it is definitely an exaggeration, but an exaggeration for which class? Up until maybe 15 years ago, right? 10 years ago, we weren't necessarily in the class of Americans that children went to, Aeropostale or the Louis Vuitton store on a regular basis. And now you have children that, go and buy $300 belts, have a collection of them. So have we joined that class where it takes $250,000 to raise a child? Maybe, but not in general. No, not in general. We haven't. As a general rule, it's significantly less to raise a child than the amount that's kind of spouted out. But I definitely do think that that's about class. I do think that they were not talking to us or about us when they said that number. But we hear that, and then we try to meet. We try to meet that. Like, oh, it takes that much, and I'm justified in, buying $1,000 worth of shoes in 4-month period. I'm justified in, spending this amount of money to have my daughter's hair done every few weeks or whatever. You feel because we want to be, quote unquote, American so bad. I think that a lot of times we try to reach that mark when it's not really it's not feasible. Yeah, it's not feasible and it's not realistic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's much more than just say we're living up like the Joneses. We can't really be and mind you, a lot of people do attempt to be the Joneses. That's quote unquote middle class, and we try to take it a step further. Hell, we want to be like the celebrities we watch on TV. Say, I gotta get that, I gotta spend that. And no one said it's not financially feasible or you're not stable. If you want, it's like this. For our people to operate in consumerism, if they want to go that route, you better be bringing home a lot of guap in your household a year.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not even obtaining that, then really, as a person that's bringing something less than, let's say, $100K a year, you're going to be very much wise on what you're actually spending and your budget. Not that you can have fun. It's good that you buy yourself something in here. You deserve it. But you shouldn't go all crazy spending money that you don't really have on things you really don't really need. Besides, you want to show off to other black people. I'm just telling black people this personally because I see some people, even around I'm at, and me and my old man had this talk about this, about, how most people want, if you got a house, they have to buy a bigger house because they want to show the next person that, I got money and I'm doing more than you. It's like a competing thing amongst our people, amongst each other, that wherever you got, I have some twice as better. But notice that in the land scale of things, we're not really competing on a much bigger scale besides amongst each other on frivolous stuff that we don't control or manufacture. Imagine that, Oasis. If we were manufacturing stuff, I would say, all right. But if we're not really making this stuff and we spend our money for somebody else that's creating the products for our reality, then that we look foolish at the end of the day, to be fair, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we do. But I think, too, we lost the concept of saving money. I remember, really trying to study the Great Depression and what black people were doing in the Great Depression, just through my own family, finding, my family, my great-grandfather and my grandfather, and a lot of my aunts lived in the same home during the Depression, and they were mostly all professionals, doctors and nurses and, and the like. And just like really looking at, well, what did they do during the Great Depression, and why don't you hear about mass suicide, for our people? Why don't you hear about our stories like that through the Great Depression? And actually, segregation and racism saved us in the Great Depression because we weren't, able to just go into any banks that we wanted to go to. And so, we had a lot of mattress saving and, a lot of in the can in the closet saving. And so when the system fell, we were actually okay by and large, or at least where we were before it fell anyway. If we didn't have money to save or put away, we were at least, pretty much where we were. And because we were agriculturalists more so then, we were okay. Now we're so integrated into the system that the highs and lows economically of the country are our highs and lows. We work, a great deal of us work in the government, and are dependent on it. And so we're so intertwined with it now that, the highs and the lows really do affect us, where before, we didn't, because we had the concept of saving, of putting something to the side, of the concept of a rainy day. And now we just have a fear of a rainy day, but we're not proactive about it, really. And Americans in general aren't either. That study that was released that said that the average American doesn't have, has $500 or less in the bank, or can't rise to $5,000 emergency. That was across the board.
Actually, the total is 10,000 now. 10,000 is the quick for anybody if they ain't serious situation. It's good to have 10,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Americans in general aren't meeting that threshold, and we aren't either. But we do. What is it? We have the sixth largest economy globally. Just us, our people in this country. So we have the money, some kind of way. We have the money. We just don't. We don't put it into industry. We put it, we do put it into industry. We put it into consuming parts of industries instead of building industries. And so, if you take all of that into account, again, you could find yourself getting up to a very high unnecessary cost to raise a child, and then teaching that child to replicate that.
I agree.
It's not, I think before when those numbers first start coming out, because I can remember those numbers in the 90s, which I find interesting because I remember in the 90s when they were saying, 175,000. Obviously, with inflation, now it's gone up to 250. But even back then, even back then, certainly back then, before we were buying, comparative, gym shoes, comparative price gym shoes, that was ridiculous to most black parents that to spend, that much money. And it should be ridiculous now, but again, like you said, it's a lot of, want to be like the Joneses, and rarely wanting to be like the Joneses in ways where we're competitive, where we teach our children, to be competitive in the industry and how to save and how to get up out of the next generation of oppression. It's more, and that's also a thing of when you don't have a lot, you try to satisfy yourself in the now because you don't have a lot. We don't really live in a culture of wait and get it. It's now. Everything is now. How we shop is right now. How we, view things is right now. You don't want to wait. You don't like your condition. You don't want to wait on your parents to make this amount of money to get you something. then you sell drugs and get it. You know, you shake your ass on Instagram and you get it now. You don't go to school, you don't work hard, you don't save, you don't, you know. And that's not everybody. That's not everybody. I'm certainly not speaking in terms of everybody. But that is a, you know, great deal of our culture to want it now. And 4 years seems so far away when you're looking ahead at it. And then when it's passed, you're like, damn, 4 years passed already. And yeah, we don't take that and just run with it and, you know, and keep that with us, that 4 years past happens very quickly. We're constantly looking at 4 years ahead is a long fucking time, so I need what I need now. And, yeah, you can find yourself wasting a lot of money, spending a lot of money to get something now.
This is true. That's true. Let me give the call number again. The call number for tonight's show is 712-770-4160. The access code is 915-411#. I repeat, 712-770-4160. The access code 915-411#. Tonight's subject, Chaos Reign presents what are the financial costs of raising an American child? With my special guest, Osasis King. And I see the chat room's getting very lively. They kind of make some jokes here. I hear some talking about they want to be a sugar mama. Monica says she'll be the sugar mama. I tell you, that guy's crazy in the chat room nowadays, man. No sugar mamas here, man. You know. And for all you dudes looking for a sugar mama, you know, you better make sure you have your sex games on point. If you don't do them right, they're not giving you no allowance, mind you. Know that. Yeah, man. You know, 'cause you know I hear about these sugar babies, like the girls being for sugar daddy, looking for a sugar daddy. Yeah, they got sugar mamas too now. You know, mama needs work too. You know, I'll say, boy, you want this money? You better get on his knees, and you better do mama good. And they're going to. You know, they don't. I get an allowance. You know? Not gonna drive that nice Mercedes Benz that mama worked so hard to get, or you drive around to tailor your little girlfriends to make it seem as yours, but really it's hers. But they don't question it. Yeah. So, all right. I see somebody raise a hand. Before I take the call, we're gonna go to one more thing. In regards to the medical side, in regards to children, we all know when it comes to children, there's certain things that need to be met. The checkups, to dental work, and that's pretty much it. So in regards to the financial aspect of that, what is normally you think the normal average cost of, you know, the medical side in regards to children in this country? You know, that also equates to the so-called illusion of a $250K for one child. If we want to go into that.
Well, you know, health insurance plans, they definitely vary. And it depends on what your job offers. You know, I think in Arizona, you know, where I live, I think in 2018 it was about $500 a month or something like that. But I've seen it, you know, I've talked to a sister, hers is $1,600 a month. You know, it depends on how much you make, where you work, what plan is offered. So, and then again, you still have to divide that up by the amount of members in the home to say, well, how much of that actually goes to a child. So.
One woman said that's a whole job in itself. Health insurance costs and about $300 to $500 per month per family.
Yeah.
This is Monica.
Yeah.
Hey, Monica, I hope you can call in because, you know, I know you're more the financial expert. I would appreciate, just for your input if you can, sweetie.
Yeah.
Call in. Yeah. But it varies from different states. Family size is also an equation to it too.
Yeah, like I said, I know in Arizona, 2018, we were paying about $500 a month. So you take that and you divide it by how many members are in the home, and then you say, okay, well, each child is costing about $100, $100 or so dollars a month, and you add that up, and you're still not going to get to
$250K for one child.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when they said this amount, and I never said this early in the show, the first thing that comes to mind is that's how much it costs for one child. And I thought it was usually one child a year is going to cost that much. But when I think deeply, I said this is the average rate for a child 0 to 18 for one child. It's going to cost roughly that. And if we really do the number crunching, if people really add the numbers depending on your needs and meds, and like I said, what your child really needs, not what they don't need, because that's like an additional cost, that's a waste cost, or a unnecessary cost. I think there's a special term they call it, a waste. I don't know if you know what they call it. There's a special term they call a certain cost.
I'm not really sure what you're saying.
Yeah. All right. Well, somebody will tell me in the chat room, but it is really a necessary cost. But adding it all together, it doesn't really add that. It doesn't really equate to that. Not at all. Not at all. So, I think we were just clear enough on this subject, and I hope that if people have any of their own opinions, call in now. For those in the chat room and that's listening now, I'll give the call number one more time. The call number is 712-770-4160. The access code is 915-411#. I repeat, 712-770-4160. Access code 915-411#. All right. As I go to the board, I see the first call. I open your line now. All right. First call open.
Gary?
Hey, what's good, Jay?
All right. Yeah, man, I'm good show. So let me put it on the table, right? I was looking up. It says it's it's around $233,000. That's a typical number, but like you said, it depends what city and state you're in, right? And then that's without college. So this is raising a child from birth to 17, 18, right? To the end of their 17th birthday, going into 18. So they average. They said, well, and this is a couple of sites that are different sites, saying that is around 234,000, 233, somewhere around there. So, and that's again without any college, paying for college. And is that also they speak if you're putting them through private school or public school? So that's another that could be another question or argument. Now the basic things that they list would be like, all right, housing expenses, mortgage maintenance, but that's what you're living. If you're the parent, obviously you got to pay that. But for the child, the actual expense for the child would be food expenses. There's going to be some transportation expenses because you're going to have to take the child to the doctor and certain things, whether it be schooling or any kind of activities you're going to have to pay. So that you're going to have to add on to clothing expenses, health care, child care, and then education, which will be another addition. Again, if you're talking about 230-something thousand minus if you're putting them in a private school from pre-K on to, they finish high school, right? So again, it is expensive. I definitely agree that if you're going to be having a child, you know, most people don't plan it. You know, that's what they say happens. But you know, you have to keep that in mind. That's all. I think that that's a very important thing. That keep that big, and that's at the very minimum. Say, damn, you know what? If I have a child, it's going to cost me $200,000. Not to say that it deters you from having a child, just to give you some type of preparation down the line. Because again, a lot of people don't plan it, and they actually work it out, or you know, get figure it out, like they say, and end up getting a job, or you know, getting a better job, and making sure that everything that needs to be in play is in play. You know what I'm saying? At the moment when they having kids, sometimes it's not in play, but it ends up being that. But I'm just saying that keep in mind, 200,000 plus, you know, and that's at the very minimal, and that's it. But you know, have children, and just know that it's like anything else. You have to feed it, clothe it, the basic things, and then if you want to put it through some type of good schooling, you know, if you're against the public school system and you want a better education, or a different type of education that could get them, you know, in a better position, then you know that that's an additional cost to it. So I said there, you know, it costs money. It does cost money.
Now, Jay, it's good you mentioned that that it might deter a lot of males to might not have kids, and some of them still have kids anyway. But there is I would say, a snare being developed now where a lot of these dudes that even foregoing not only the marriage part of it, but now they don't want no kids at all. And I see that slowly growing. And one of their, you know, reasons is that they don't want to get caught in the system in regards to even deal with even birthing a child here. I'm not sure what answer in regards to those men that think that, you know. What's your take on that?
I mean, I really can't say, and I probably won't be able to box everybody in. What I would say is that, you know, I don't think that everybody's going to be doing that for that reason. So I say that, you know, we've talked about this many times, and why, you know, or why possibly a lot of men in this time is not having children, right? And it has to do with the times. It has to do with maybe they're looking at life in a different angle, in the sense of, let me get my education right, let me get my finance right, work, build a career, live my life, whether it be, you know, a person that wants to be single and wants to party, wants to date multiple women, vice versa. But I would say that a lot of it has to do with that, careers. You know, people are saying, you know what, let me get my stuff right first, and then I can, you know, get settled in if I'm going to do that. So, and again, not to say that that's all men, but a large portion of men are, I think, thinking, young men, you know, young men. We're talking about anybody that's over 18 now is probably more into career, more into different activities versus just getting married. But you have a portion of men that also are getting married young. You know, they meet their high school their high school sweetheart. They stay together for 2 or 3 years, and then they end up getting married in their 20s. I think that that's still happening, but we're living in a time that people are probably going to have kids more later in life. And if you say that those statistics are really, you know, accurate, then if you see that there's less men here having children, we would say that probably the younger men are doing things a little bit different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I see it is more of a growing trend, not like a concern, but it is growing, and usually because of the economics of the system that we're in, not just America, but just us people for the sake of conversation, that it kind of puts that burden to a lot of them that, just to forego it and wait a little longer, which I have no problem with it. But, when the mindset of a lot of people were, that it is going to continue to live this, bachelor lifestyle and living it up and all stuff. And there has to be a draw line where there has to be end to the road. And I don't want, particularly our people, especially the boys, get caught too much on it, because other race people, way how they operate, they do it, but at the end of the day, they want to secure some form of future and some lineage. And I want our young men to get caught through the opposite, because really to pass on actual wealth, you're going to have to build some families. You're not going to get around it. Wealth's not built through individuals. That's my check. And we never seen it in history back then. You're not going to see it now. So that's my concern. Not a greater concern, but that's what I see growing now. But I like your input. Appreciate that. All right, let me see who else raised their hand. Caller, open your line.
Hey, how you doing, man? This is Ken.
Hey, what's up, Kenneth? What's good, brother?
What's up, brother?
Haven't heard from you in a while, man. So
yeah, man. Shoot, I'm listening to what's called it. There's a reason why, because I gotta take care of my kids. So
yeah, your kids or your grandkids, Kenneth? You got grandkids now, so
Dude, basically both. No, I don't gotta take care of my. I mean, I help out, but I'm not gonna lie and say I gotta take care of my grandbaby. But I got one grandkid, so
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, hey, man, this is a great topic. That I'm glad that you're exploring from personal experience. I have 5 kids, well, 3. I mean, 2 adult kids and 3 children still living with me. Me and my wife, and I mean, shoot, the 250,000 or 200-something thousand that you guys are talking about that's a crazy number. But it's funny because even like right now, I mean, when you account for things that we consider luxuries before, they're now a necessity. Like, I mean, my kids, they gotta have cell phones. I mean, it's so bad. I mean, all this stuff that's going on now. No, I'm serious. Even when I punish my kids, I'll let them I'll just have to take the hit. Let them take their cell phones to school. So in case something happens, they have to have computers now in the house. Right. Yeah. I mean, before, you were able to, maybe have encyclopedias, stuff like that, and but
you said encyclopedias in your household?
No, I said before. I'm talking about like for like when I was a kid, any research we did, we needed encyclopedias. We had to go to the library, this, that, and the third. But even more so, I mean, a lot of the homework that my kids do today is they need the computer. They need to have internet access in order to do it. So I mean, and sister, you said you have 7 kids. I think you said you have.
I do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 7.
30 to 15, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, one parent to another. Because I have a younger brother, and he got married, I want to say, maybe almost 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to him. We got on the subject of kids, and he said he didn't want to have kids. And I said, well, why not? And he said, well, he didn't see any benefit to it. He did not see he couldn't see himself raising kids in this kind of environment, right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny that we're talking about this because, I mean, their kids are going to do what they're going to do. But I remember one time having kids, you were encouraged to have like I got 5, you got 7, and I mean, you were encouraged to have that many kids because they were, kids were considered an asset. You needed, to help out around the house, family, in the yard, whatever, and whatever. Do you have any regrets? I mean, I know we love our kids, but like if you could do something different, or because I mean, yeah, like what I'm saying is, financially, $200,000 per child from birth to 18. That is a hell of a lot of money to invest in a person. To only to take a poll and have most parents say. That's what I wanted to say. I ran across a poll years ago that said that most parents feel like after I think the age of either 4 or 5, children are no longer considered an asset. They're nothing but a liability to parents. Right? Do you feel that's true or?
No, absolutely not. I would say morally, well, see, here's the thing. I don't have any by chance children. I called all my children. I didn't accidentally get pregnant. I did not know their fathers or, had one night stands or anything like that. So I very much consider my children, I think that what I put into my children spiritually as a hope for them to be an advancement of my family's bloodline has been has been a much bigger cost than what I put into it or what I've had to sacrifice into it financially. So looking at my children as putting into them the unique ability to be able to advance my family, and to be able to advance my race, I don't think that there's any amount that I would complain about or regret. And if I would say that I regretted anything, I would say that I did not do more. My children are well traveled. They have a lot of apprenticeship experience. Like that was something. I'm a homeschooler. So I was able to save a lot of money financially by homeschooling, actually, because I didn't have to meet the demands of their peers, by what they wore and what shoes they had on. But I did spend, a lot of money in different programs. There were a lot of music classes, a lot of dance classes, a lot of extra tutoring, a lot of science classes. But that also forced me, because I wasn't financially capable of doing all of that, it forced me to be creative in my community. It forced me to find the person in the neighborhood that could do art really well. It forced me to take them to the local cleaners and say, can my son trade you time here while he learns how to operate a cleaner? It just forced me to be creative. So I would say that I spent significantly less than a $250,000 investment over an 18-year period because I didn't have it. And so I was forced, again, to be creative. But I don't know. I don't have any regrets at all other than the fact that I wish that I had have been even more creative. My children are, again, very well traveled. They've all gone to, I have a daughter getting ready now to move to Japan to study architecture. My oldest daughter studied culinary in Paris. I do have 2 grandchildren. My 29-year-old son and my 26-year-old son each have a child apiece. My 29-year-old is married. So, if anything, one of my other regrets I would have to say is that I didn't expand myself more when I was a younger mother, because I do feel like I do have the blessing of seeing myself be 7 different personalities in 7 different avenues through them. And so I although I do have a lot of joys and a lot of passions and a lot of things that I'm intellectually curious and involved in, I even wish that I had allowed myself to have even more, because I see so much of who I've always been and who I'm becoming in them, and them exploring so many of those avenues. So probably that I wasn't more creative, and that I didn't invest into my own intellectual capabilities even more for their advancement. But other than that, no, not at all.
Thanks for taking my call, Chaos. Thanks. You guys have a nice night. I might call back a little later. I'm going to be listening in.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I appreciate your input in that. That when people ask about if we have to do it all again, we would. Yeah, we would, but we do it better. Yeah. And a lot of people, not some people, just human beings, we don't really reflect. Say, there's always that we could do better. Yeah. I always harp myself. I probably not push more on myself, but I harp myself that always what I do, I can always do better. But the challenge to doing that better is always trying to look into myself, to really delve into how can I do better, really, if we want to keep it 100. With children, obviously it's like anything, it's a trial and error to get the results you need for not only yourself, but what you want out of your children in their development through this journey we call life. Because we want our children to come out better than us. And every man could admit this, the ones that have sons. We always harp our own sons that we want you to be a better man than us. And it's rare when you hear a woman say, what do you expect out of your children? From not only your sons, but your daughters, We don't really ask these questions because when we ask the right questions, it makes us take a sit back and reflect and say, I never thought of that. But we should always think on that, because, this world, all we have in this world is time. And time is such a resource that we should take more for granted, not to use frivolously.
Right.
Yeah. One thing, where I agree with you, Oasis, that, whatever you think you could have learned, you could have probably learned it more sooner to incorporate into your children for their better development, Yeah. But like always, this life we call, this journey of life is a constant, growing. We always learn as we go, That's why, and the beautiful thing about our children produce what we call grandchildren. So where we never got to understand it, we could sure incorporate it to our grandchildren, depending on how much time we spend with them. It doesn't hurt. You get me? So really, truly, I remember saying, oh, you got to say something? Go. Yeah. So, I like that. Let me check if anybody's raised their hand. Okay. Anybody raised their hand yet? Not just yet. Is she married? No, ABC? No, we're not going to ask questions. You call in, please. Thank you. Yeah. One thing I don't know if I asked you is, you travel to every part of the world, or what place have you not seen yet as a woman like yourself, where you and your children have not seen yet?
We actually have not been to Africa yet.
Wow.
We haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? We haven't been to Africa yet, but I do plan on going to Mali soon. I have a friend that lives in Mali, and I do plan on going there. It probably won't be until, next year, until 21, but I do definitely plan on going there. But we've been all over the country. We've been to Asia. We've been to Turkey. We've been to a few Grecian islands. We've been a few places.
Okay. You've been to South America, all parts of South America?
No, I haven't been to all parts, but I've been to Costa Rica. I've been to Honduras.
Okay. You ever met Dr.
Yeah, I'm going to Grenada this summer for an herbal apprenticeship. And I haven't been to Jamaica. I would like to go there.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, I'm a white soul. You never been to Jamaica.
Yeah, I don't know why. I would love to go to Peru and Jamaica this year, if that's at all possible. Okay. But yeah, we've been fortunate enough to be able to take them, to a bunch of places. I learned, because, again, I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and there was not much to see. And so I first started, as a young mother, just getting on the bus and the train and taking my children downtown just to show them that the world was bigger than our neighborhood, that whatever they perceived to be their limitations, that was an illusion, because there's a whole, giant, we live on a plain, so there's a whole giant plain for them to experience. And also I felt the responsibility of showing them that there was more, because I know how easy it is for a child to look at their parent and their parents' limitations and judge their parents and accept, a limited worldview because of who their parents were. And I didn't want to be responsible. Again, I created my children to advance my family and my race. And so I couldn't find myself culpable in limiting them. So I had to, find creative ways to expand what they saw in the world and how they saw themselves in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Did I say your name right? Oasis? I don't know if I said it right. Okay. Now I was checking. Let me go in the chat room and see what's going on here. It sounds like she is intelligent enough to think beyond the status quo. Of course, listen, Monica, you know me, Mo. I got the hookup, Mo. I find many people of walks of life. I'm just not no regular Joe, Monica. Heck, I found you, girl. So it's like this with me. And I'll tell people a little secret about me. You see, me, I like to have a conversation with not just regular men, but I also have conversations with women too. And not every woman has a sense that intelligence that I find appealing, but I could work with them, if it makes sense. Just like they could work with me in regards when I express my thoughts to them. It will hopefully it makes sense to them as well. So, I'm a person that I'm a people person. I like to communicate, talk to any of our people around the world. And the internet and this digital age gives me the comfort to talk to many people of walks of life. And I'm grateful for it. And I use it to the full extent. So, it's not like when y'all hear these streams that I'm having people with, with what you consider low insight or some that, might sound weird. I bring people that have not only sense, but is able to express it in a way that you could understand like a child. And the best word to say. So, and my job, I put in the work. So I'm not no dude that sit here, just look. I put in necessary work. So that's one thing people can't really take credit for me that I don't put in the work. I do. What's this? Yeah, I mean, obviously, if the argument is being killed, and it's been killed already, and the reason why I say this, Monica, why it's killed, because I have to really examine this going on to this new decade, and we have to really break down these talking points, the real talking points. As you know, Oasis, I see ABC on the board. I'm going to take a call in a second, ABC, that I've been hearing these same talking points from males that have no sense, talk about the same statistics, and they're not really analyzing or really taking a deeper look if the numbers make sense. Like, remember the conversation we had when we were talking about the amount of black people or ADUS people here in this country, how they said we're only 45 or something million strong? But then again, we don't question and say, this is something that's presented to you by data from the census or wherever you get your numbers from. But there are questions that say, do you know most times most people are not documented? Besides, they talk about the abortion rates, which really is not right. It's actually inaccurate. And I know from another brother, from another YouTuber, you heard about him already, if we had to do the numbers, when it says 20 million babies were born from our group, it's shown that it's not really 20 million. It's less than that. It's like close to 10. You know. But regardless how great or less the numbers is, a lot of people don't really care at the end of the day of what our people do in regards to continue the life of blackness or, African or ADS, whatever they want to call us. You get me? They're not really concerned about that. To keep it 100. So to keep throwing these numbers, it just tells us, that, we're no good, we're ungrateful, and we deserve everything that is given to us toward the system. And I think that's wrong. I don't know if you agree or disagree with what I just said. Oasis.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said, from all the numbers that's being thrown at us, to keep pushing this illusion of black inferiority and that we deserve it, I just don't go by it, Where we don't have numbers in this country or the numbers of women aborting black babies. Like our people care about the amount of babies being born in this country, being born by black women, if they really care or not. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, I don't think. Well, first of all, most states don't even have to report the numbers for abortions, and then a lot of Caucasian women get abortions by their private doctors. A lot of Caucasian women go to Planned Parenthoods and things of that sort. But Planned Parenthood actually gets more money if they report that African Americans are getting abortions and not Caucasian women. So I doubt if they're ethical enough to not fudge their numbers on that. But again, most states don't have to report it. And then it's not our congressmen and our senators that are pushing and predominantly black communities that are pushing for abortions to cease. It's actually members of the other community that are pushing for abortions to cease so that they can rebuild their numbers or attempt to rebuild their numbers. So it seems like the problem, that there's a bigger problem with their community not having them, needing to not have them than it is for our community to stop. So yeah, I'm not sure what those numbers are. I haven't taken the poll, and I think unless black people actually get out there and do the footwork to collect data on their own, we can't out of one side of our mouth say, oh, those dastardly devils, and then on the other side of our mouth say, but I believe there are statistics,
It doesn't work both ways. Always, it doesn't work both ways. And our people say they should. Right. That's not how the world works. Call our children like the bastards or devil makers and all that stupidness. It's ridiculous. But anyway.
Yeah,
let me open the line.
And I told you, I've done the census for years. I've done the census in small communities. I've been, actual census taker on the street, and I've been a supervisor of offices. And I'll tell you one thing across the board, honestly, that most black men are not counted at all, whether they're young men or young adult men. If they have a girlfriend and not a wife, 9 times out of 10 they're not counted on their girlfriend's form. And then if you go to their mother's house, they're not counted on their mother's form. And so, I always say until Facebook, they didn't have a clue how many black men were here. And a lot of large cities, a lot of black men are street vendors or what have you. And you'll find if you talk to a lot of brothers on the streets that, are street vending or are doing what they call hustling on the street or whatever, that they don't even have a state ID.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, I always say, in a joking kind of manner, but kind of, half-hearted seriously, that they didn't have a clue how many black men were here until they got Facebook.
Yeah,
so, I don't know to believe those numbers at all.
I don't believe nothing in the system no more until our people got the necessity, strength, and will. And mind you, we have the capability to do this ourselves. I mean, it might cost some money, but it's better safe that we do the numbers ourselves, regardless of we're in these organizations, to really crunch the numbers ourselves, to do the tallies, go to door to door, or do our own form of statistics. I mean, it takes work, which our people try to avoid, but in the near future, we have to do this work because everything that they present to us, we have to have a very much a red flag. We can't go one side of our mouth say, we're this, and we go on the other side of our mouth and say, well, I'm going to agree with the Eurocentric numbers data. I mean, that's not logic. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Right. And not to mention that that's not thinking strategically, because if I'm, if I want to be a totalitarian dictator, if I want to run you, the last thing I would do is tell you how many men you have around me. I would make you feel as though you're dealing with a dominant society. I wouldn't tell you how many of you there actually were, especially if I knew you outnumbered me.
Oh, most definitely. The European still deals heavily in numbers because he has to know where he is in the playing field, in the chessboard, to move his pieces. It's a war strategy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right. Let me open ABC's mic. Let me see if he's still there. All right, ABC, you can call back in. Let me open up Miss Lady's. Miss Lady, you there? Miss Lady? Okay, that's not her. Miss Lady? Are you there? Hello? Miss Lady? All right, that's not her. All right. Miss Lady? Are you there? Hello?
That's this is Gigi, Gary.
I'm sorry, Gigi. Oh, wait, I see somebody raise a hand. Stay online, Gigi. Hello? I'll open your line.
That was me again.
Oh, all right, okay. All right. So what's good, Gigi? You have anything to say?
Life is wonderful. I'd just like to say this is an excellent show. Young lady, you are a virtual tour de force. I'm so proud of you, and I am so happy for your children and your man. I'm just happy for you.
Yeah, I appreciate
that. Only a superwoman would say, "Oh, I wish I had done more." The hell? Oh my God! But anyway, it's really, really nice. I'm so happy that your children are well traveled, and you're doing an excellent, excellent job. Thank you, and thank you, Gary. Good show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done.
Okay. Well, when I always hear it with a lot of our women say that they could do many things and they say that they can handle it all, I don't think they're really serious of handling it all. Because for your life journeys, Oasis, you actually are that depiction of a simple woman. And, you did eventually, you do got help too because you are married. A lot of people don't know that.
Definitely.
But obviously, it's like this. A lot of women must understand, whatever you're trying to accomplish, if you're going to have to raise these babies by yourself, know this, that you're passing on something to your children so that when they come out in the society much better or greater are than being more of the degenerate that society wants them to be, especially when it comes with the boys. I remember we had this conversation in regards to your sons. One thing you do differently, you don't really promote, them to, be a superstar and all that. You give them practical skills and keep it honest. Like with boys, they have to be good with their hands, obviously, because we do things action-wise. We touch things. We interact things.
Yeah.
And what you do, like most women mothers don't do this, and I want y'all to take notes when y'all go back to this playback. She buys her sons, a set of tools, right?
I buy tools, major tools for every birthday, and they have to learn how to master that tool. every year. Yeah, every year I make sure I do that. Now I want to say this. I think that I don't want to separate myself from most sisters because I think that most sisters, if they don't do it, and I'm saying most, I know not all sisters, are doing as well as they could be. And I know some sisters are damaging as mothers. I recognize that, and I acknowledge that. But I don't want to separate myself from most sisters. I just think that we do what we know how to do. And I'll tell you that what I know how to do, what I learned was from not having it. I didn't have the best examples, but I did have, I was fortunate enough to go and live with my grandmother who, I've said this many times, who was a master of her own personality. And so I was able to sit at the feet of somebody who had mastered themselves, who had a mental stability that I'm still in awe of. And I haven't been the best mother. I was a young mother. I had my first child. I wanted to get become independent and live on my own. Because as I was being raised by my mother, she wasn't a hands-on mother at all, and so I didn't even know how to be a child. So that when I went to live with my grandmother, it was imperative to me that I did not disrespect her in a way, but I didn't know, how to be a child. And so it came to my young mind that, I should go and start my own family. And was that the smartest thing to do? No, it wasn't. But once that deed was done, I had the responsibility of honoring my grandmother. I had the responsibility of uplifting my mother's image in my own mind, and certainly in the memories of my children. And so I learned a lot by trial and error. My children are not perfect by any means. I'm not perfect by any means. But certain things about them, it took a lot of effort on my part to make sure that they didn't replicate. I don't have any, they're not in jail. They've never been in legal trouble. I have a 30-year-old daughter who's married. She doesn't have any children. She's not ready for children. I have my 25-year-old, my 21-year-old, my 17-year-old. They're all still virgins. Our sexual lives is very important to us, not because I raised them so well that they're just not out there doing it, but because I was very honest with them about who I was sexually and how they came to be, and the importance of procreating intelligently. But I would say the biggest emphasis that I placed in being a mother was the idea that I could evolve my bloodline, and that was a responsibility not only for me, but a responsibility for my children. I always say that primitive man is concerned with himself, and evolved man is concerned with his children's children's children. And so that's my primary focus. I love my children and I adore my children, but my effort in my children is for my children's grandchildren.
Yes. And it's like this. Once you teach them, raise them to the best ability, it's gonna, they're gonna carry on not only your legacy but the bloodline the right way. And I like that word, bloodline, and that's a new word that's we're gonna steal. I know. People always say, "Well, where did they come up with that?" And that's the best way of saying it. And I would say, and with this bloodline, like you said, you accomplish and want your children to continue. That means they can't go outside your bloodline in regards to entertain interracialism, bringing home non-black people into this bloodline. Am I right?
Well, here's the thing about free will. They can do whatever they want to do, but I'm not accepting. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not naive enough to think that that my children won't do some things that I don't approve of, but I'm prepared to move forward with my goal, with or without my children's participation. So I don't know. I don't consider. I wouldn't consider them an involvement of my grandmother's lineage, of my forebears' image, if they erase their own image. So no, that wouldn't be tolerated at all. Neither would homosexuality be. Now, do I have anything against homosexuals in their own home? I don't have anything against anybody whose rent I do not pay. But as for me and my children, as for the future of my family, as for what I hope to instill in them and in their highest minds to contribute to the race, then no, that would not be acceptable at all.
I see. Excellent. Okay, all right. And I'm going to check one more time. I guess people don't have no other.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, G, go ahead.
Well, you want to check the line first?
No one raised their hand. Go right ahead, Gigi.
Oh, okay, Gary. Did you say you were an advocate for women or something to that effect?
I'm an advocate for black people. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That was for Gary.
Okay, I apologize.
Say that again, Gigi.
Did you say, you said something about when you talk to women or when you advise women, something to that effect. So you're like an advocate?
I didn't advise no women right now.
No, advocate.
Advocate about what?
An advocate is a person that stands up for women's rights and equal opportunities and maybe even feminism to a certain extent, but not too far. No?
Where do you heard of that? Where do you heard of that, Gigi, as I may ask?
I just told you. You stated when you unless I heard it wrong, I thought you said when I talk to women.
Then you probably heard it wrong. I did not state that claim. To be fair.
Okay. Maybe you said when I think of women. But anyway, back to the guest. It's just amazing because she does so much, but she's still thinking about what she could have done better with 7 children. Oh, Lord. This is a great show. Very encouraging. I hope some young people get to hear this because they think that women like this don't exist anymore, and it's just good to see and hear. I'm done. Thank you.
Well, this information is out here, but the old saying goes, people that got eyes will see, and people that got ears will hear. As far as I can tell you. If they look good for certain information or try and seek out, they know where to find it. When somebody, like any person, a young woman that comes back to this message or come back to this broadcast, and they're looking for simple answers or things that they're going through in life and they need to hear something from a different perspective, I have full faith they'll find this broadcast, And not only it's going to be on this channel, but it'll be on my channel, Chaos Reign. If people subscribe to Chaos Reign, I appreciate it, and give a comment, subscribe, like always. But
right.
On to other things, but yeah.
Does the guest have a website or something like on YouTube?
Oh no, I'm gonna tell you in a second. I'll give you all that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Let me open this next line. All right, 901. May I ask who I'm speaking to?
This is Jalen. I'm in the chat room. This y'all show what are the financial costs of raising an American child. It's our childish show, right?
Yeah, that's the show. Yes, this is the show. Yes, correct. Yeah, everything that.
Yeah. I have something to say. Well, I heard these people on YouTube saying don't even date single mothers and don't even raise another man's kids. That's what I've been hearing on YouTube. People in the black manosphere, I've been hearing it too. Yeah, and also, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, finish, then I'll give my input. Go ahead.
Then telling them don't fool with single mothers and don't take care of none of the man's kids. Let that man take care of none of the man's kids. That's their problem.
Well, I'm going to keep it honest with you, Jalen. The manosphere, and I talked about the manosphere last year, and my whole overview of it in its entirety. I feel, and not just any racial manosphere, either the regular manosphere or the black manosphere, you want to call it, these people are not really organized. The only time they're really organized is when it comes to getting some coochie and, probably cussing the opposite sex on what they won't give them. Like, you don't give me no submission. You will not give me this and that. This is what you find common in the so-called manosphere. It's like a little small circle of men trying their hardest to bait women, to shame women, so that way they can get the time of day, so they can get what is like the prize, what every man really desires at the end of the day, is in between their legs. That's what they're for. That's what their purpose. It's not some male empowerment, male growth, especially when it comes to the black manosphere, because these men that call themselves that was an offshoot of the regular manosphere, which is non-black, they're not really building anything besides escapism, to escape their problems. Don't really deal with the system in its entirety that's oppressing or putting a foot of that black man. That's not in their what do you call it? In their little groups, organizations. How are we gonna come up for these oppressed systems? I hear even some of them talking say that we live in a, what do you call it? The gynosphere or something? Gynocracy. Yeah. And I hear even go as further that this community we call the black community or the ADOS community is under a matriarch. But no one's saying that the patriarchs are the ones that give the power to this so-called matriarch here in America. See, it boils down, these guys are not going to the real source of what's really causing the oppression. They think women are the problem, the attacks, and the problem why men can't progress or operate as men today. I don't agree fully on that. And as y'all know, I have shows with men.
You don't agree fully, but you agree?
Listen, hear me. I have people, and I had these people on here as guests, Gigi, some that were part of the manosphere or not part of it. You remember that, Gigi?
I can never, ever forget it, no matter how hard I try.
Okay. And at the end of the day, when you hear about the end game, it's really they're trying to get some form of empowerment. But they never go into how you're going to get empowerment when there's really systems that keep you oppressed. And no way to get out under this oppression, you have to eventually, at the end of the day, confront that system that caused your problem. There's not much talks about it amongst these groups, especially what they call the black manosphere. And I dedicate, like I said, months ago on the show on that personally, after I read how they use it now as a hate speech and all that stuff. Even some of them that were so heavily close to it had to separate from it because of this problem. And I'm not going to say the YouTubers' names, but y'all get the point. So at the end of the day, Jalen, when you hear these guys talk, you always have to conclude that these dudes are not really doing nothing but getting more access to, vagina. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, but
that's it. Because think about it. Where has the conversation have really grew after now, since it was created, since 2015? We're now in 2020. That's now going on 5 years. What has really been accomplished? Besides someone say you better go your own way, you about choose non-black women and think you're going to have some salvation on another man's patriarchy. Has anybody answered that question? No. Because it goes back in, most men have been groomed to fear competing groups of men and not deal with that man to solve that greater problem. You're not going to solve that by dealing with another race of women. I'm sorry. And most men that's going to go back to the recording, I'm telling person, chaos state person, ain't going to happen. All you want to do is you want to get some nice head, maybe some babies on the side, and get more headaches with your effort. And then you got to go back to that man again. He can say, slap that thing on you, because most of y'all are not going to get married anyway. You just sit there and say you're not going to marry sisters, but you're going to enter other non-group of women.
Did you say slap that thing on you?
What?
No, they're going to. What I mean by slap, you know what I'm talking about, when the system gets at them once they have these children and they want nothing to do with it, taking care of them, they're going to feel the woman's going to get them for, the child support and all this nonsense. That's what I mean. I'm
well,
trying to be clean. Yeah, go ahead.
If these dudes stop going around these females, they won't complain about single mothers. But these dudes thought they create single mothers by going right inside them. So I blame the dudes on this one.
Mm-hmm. Because think about it. They talk about single mothers, right? And it's ironic that they'll still entertain women, especially the sisters, when it comes times for sex. But everything else, they want nothing to do with it. That's why. And I've been listening closely to a lot of dudes with their dereliction, how they talk about, say, that the women should not do certain things to them.
Hold on.
Yeah. They should not do certain things to them because they refuse to uphold their obligation and responsibilities. That's not going to cut it, brothers. The minute you decide to have sex with this woman, with or without protection, and she conceives, you better prepare to be a father. But anyway, let me open the next line. This is going to be the last line for tonight. Is that you, ABC?
Yeah, what's going on, man?
What's good? I know you've been listening hard, and what's your question? What you have to say? And I'm saying
as I said earlier, I missed most of the shows. That's why I wasn't going to call in. But you said it's all right to go ahead and call in. So I wanted to ask her. When I came in, she was talking about how her kids traveled and everything. And it sounded like she had a number of kids that was doing stuff. So I just thought, it's pretty amazing. My kids were able to travel, but we were in the military. I don't know. So I don't know anything about the guest background or anything. And I wanted to ask her about, how she accomplished all of this and what she does, this kind of thing.
Hi. Okay. So I do have 7 children. I have 4 sons, 3 daughters. Again, the oldest is 30. The youngest is 16.
Wow.
I grew up on the west side of Chicago. And the same way you would find your, 2 things. When my mother and father passed, they did have money to the side for me. But I wouldn't say that was enough money to do everything that I've been able to do as a parent. A lot of it came through, something people call magical, and that's prayer. The other part of it came through creativity and not being afraid to hustle. I've always been an excellent cook. So when I saw guys standing on the corner all day, I sold them food. I've always known how to do hair, so I did hair. I saved a lot of money by not sending my children to school and preparing their curriculums myself and not having to spend money on keeping up, appearances. And I funneled that money into experiences. I had a candy house when my children were little. On a bad day, I might have made $200 a day. And so I've just always been fortunate enough for my community to support my efforts for me to be able to expand my children's realities. And so, I took that and I tried to do the best I could with it. And I was able to, be fortunate enough to not be afraid to open my mouth to people that could help me travel in the least expensive way possible. I had a good friend who worked for an airline for some time, and we were able to use her buddy passes to travel. I just was fierce about getting it done, to be honest with you. I wanted to get it done.
Hey, so and again, I apologize. I missed the most all of the show, so I didn't get to get this information, but are you a single parent? Were you doing all this yourself?
Well, I wasn't a married parent at that time. I am married now. At a certain point, when my children were a certain age, I decided that, well, I knew this from the beginning, but I would say that because of my genetic background, it wasn't really in me to be anything other than a serial monogamous. I didn't have the intelligence that more important than a matriarch or a patriarch was a family arc. And then when I gained that intelligence, I wouldn't say that I had a firm enough footing to be able to achieve the caliber of man that I needed for my family. So then that took some time to be able to gather that intelligence and to be able to gather that material, the material accumulations that I needed to be able to go into a relationship with 7 children and be respected and be worthy of that, that situation. And then it took scoping out, different personalities and finding the right man, finding a man that had stability of mind and stability of personality so that I could bring him on board with my children and bring my children on board with him. So I am married now. I have an excellent husband. I'm amazed by his personality, by his ability to be progressive and to be stable. I still ovulate. I don't have it all together, and so, but for a long time, I would say I wasn't married. I wasn't single, but I wasn't married.
Sister,
and I certainly had the idea that I was a serial monogamous. So
let me tell you, I asked you that because with all that travel with the kids, and then you said you homeschooled them, and you had this hustle. I've been married for a very long time, and what we did was, our kids are everything. We focused everything on the kids. So the wife stayed home. She's a housewife. So it was just my income. And, we did it kind of the old-fashioned, traditional way. But what it amounted to was we worked it by budgeting the money that we had. And I know how difficult that can be, particularly when you got a number of kids. And you said you got 7. So it just amazes me. And then I hear you here, and you're very articulate, and you come across that you know what you're doing, and it's just you're so impressive. I heard Gigi saying, and she's right on about that. It's just kind of amazing. So I don't know if your family, you come from a family of. I heard you mention about your grandmother, but you come from a family of go-getters, of entrepreneurs or something. What you did with 7 kids is just incredible. So, and I'm looking forward to checking out what you have out there. If they said there's something on YouTube or something, you're really amazing. And, congratulations on everything.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, I want to be completely transparent. When I say serial monogamy, that, that sounds good, but then you can have some brothers that'll really break that down and they'll say, oh, you was going from man to man. I'm not ashamed to admit that, my children have several fathers. I could call all of them right now and they all would show up right now because they were all my friends. We had a relationship that transcended. We both had the same goal. I just wasn't intelligent enough then to be able to help escort them towards the goal, and they weren't intelligent enough then or committed enough then to be able to stay with the goal. And so our relationship didn't end because we created a disdain for one another. It just was time to move on. Now, I don't come from a family of go-getters. My father passed defending a black woman on the street and was killed, and my mother was killed by her husband. A lot of people, when I just look at my situation a lot different, where I hear some women have a disdain for black men. It's hard for me too, even though black men have caused a lot of pain in my life. it's hard for me, too, because I respect my father. I love my brothers. My uncles showed up and showed out for me when my parents passed away. And so it would be difficult for me on one hand to, throw dirt on black men and then say, oh, I love them so much, they were my saving grace. So I appreciate my children's fathers. And I did have several relationships, but I needed that to have several relationships in order to create the genetic variants that I have and, to evolve my bloodline. That was not going to come from one man. I needed to be able to do that. I needed to have the intellectual experiences with different men to grow me in order to be the mother that I need to be. My premise has always been one of pity for my mother so that I would redeem her, not in anger for her. So in my attempt to redeem her image, I had to uplift myself and then uplift my children. And in an attempt to look at my people and not have insult after insult for them, because it's so easy to insult. So many people, they're getting money even from insulting us. And I didn't want to just sit back and do that. I wanted to uplift us. It's very important to me how God sees me even, So I wouldn't say I'm all that amazing. I'm just committed. I'm really fucking committed.
Let me just ask you, with your experience, this last question, man, I'm getting off. Just let me answer this. So, with your experience, what you explained is excellent about the dating and all that stuff. What would be your advice to like a 16-year-old girl just starting to date and all this stuff, as far as how she goes along selecting men or, this kind of thing? I know that, it's not like you got the answer to the world. I'm just saying your advice, given your experience, to end up in a place to where you are now.
Well, the advice I would give to a 16-year-old dating is not to date.
Or a young lady.
Right.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's not to date. What I told my children, and most of them are adhering to that, is that they should not procreate until they're 32. Because at 32, you've got to know enough personalities. You've had enough relationships. You realize that a lot of those relationships are not lasting, even when you went into them thinking they were lasting. And by that time, then exactly, what type of relationship you want to have and who you are in relationship. And so that you can give your child a very, as stable as possible, as stable as can be planned, life. I would not, had I been able to see outside of my community and how I was and who I was at that time, I would have given myself, a long time before I made it and married and procreated. Through my children, I teach my children to have a wealth of experiences through their 20s, and then to consider mating and procreating at around the age 32. And some of the things that I say to them, I try to speak as real to my children as possible. I try to tell them that, on a real level, that their cleanliness, that their lack of having venereal diseases is valuable. And so the reality is that 90% of the population has herpes simplex 1. And so kissing a boy could give them a disease that mutates in their body and causes all types of other problems besides just a cold sore on their lip. And so to make your first date with any young man a date to the clinic before you ever even kiss them. I give them the responsibility of their health very young, and I tell them how valuable it is when they're very young. And so that's one of the things. I just try to instill in them that they're very valuable before anything else. And I don't place that on their looks. I place that on their intelligence and what they have to give to the world. My grandmother used to teach me about first and second milers. And she would say a first miler is a person that can see the problem and they can break it down. A second miler is a person that does loving service to solve the problem. And so I try to give them the responsibility of always being second milers. And I think that when a child is tasked with a responsibility, when a young person has a responsibility. They find value in themselves in completing the mission. It's just not their job to just grow up and to live in the world. It really is their job to shine in the world. And it's their job to not let my effort be in vain or the effort of my forebears. I teach them that there is a such thing as free will, that though I may know which one of them is going to steal the cookie, they still have the ability to not steal the cookie or to steal the cookie. You know, they still have free will. So, you know, that's my advice to my own daughters. I have a 16-year-old daughter. I have a 25-year-old daughter that's still a virgin, and she values her virginity, and so do I, and so do her brothers. So do her brothers. They'll kill you over her virginity. So.
They better not think you're going to stabbing that and say, "Oh, you stab it, they're gonna come to your house with the weapons." So you mess with my.
Well, who they're gonna go to first is her, because the ultimate responsibility is hers.
Okay.
So yeah, unless they take it, you know, the ultimate responsibility is hers. If you expect for your brothers to be willing to die for you, then you expect to be beholden to your brothers.
This is true. I agree. I got one lady call. I gotta take this call. I said I was gonna end it, but let me see what Ottawa has to say. This is the last call. Lady Ottawa, yes. Are you there?
Yes. And I am just so tickled about this sister here. I love everything that you said. I'm curious. You made the statement, sister, that you strengthened your bloodline through your children.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you, what is the science behind that?
Oh, that's a broad question.
Okay. Well, the science of how I came to that, or the science of how I do it?
How you came to that, and if you could give me a little tidbit on how you do it, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Well, so how I came to that was when I first realized that my mother, that she had to have some regret. How I came to that was just pondering my own mortality. The first thing I ever learned how to read was the book of Revelations, right? When I was little, used to have people that used to walk by with the little cartoon pamphlets, and they would have Jesus flying over and everything burning and shit. And, you know, and I was like, what the heck is this, right, to my mom? And she was like, oh, that R-E-V is Revelations. And I remember having my little speller book and the Bible open in Revelations, and that's how I learned to read. So the first way that I knew that this was something that I should do was the fear of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? It was fear of mortality. It was feeling as though I should be beholden to my own spirituality. And I didn't know any other way to be beholden to God but through people. I didn't have the ability to do that in my own family because my home life was, it wasn't productive. It was damaging. And I saw that my mother had given or was trying to give her all to a damaged man. And so I looked around and I saw that many males were as damaged as, you know what I'm saying, as the little girls were. And so I really didn't have a big hope to, you know what I'm saying, to find somebody in my own community that wasn't damaged. And I really didn't want to. I didn't really want to. I think that the reason why black women are number one in the churches is because we have a savior complex, right? And so I wanted to save somebody ever since I was a little girl. And so then when it came to pass that I moved with my grandmother and I got a chance to see stability of mind up close, and I got a chance to see how it's structured, and I got a chance to see the acme of all virtues, which is self-control, right? I got a chance to see that and feel that and learn that. I didn't master it, but I knew I wanted to cultivate it and pass it on. And the only way that I knew how to do that was to have my own children. And so I you know, I applied for emancipation when I was 15 years old. I had an income from my mother and father, and they were like, "Are you crazy? We're not emancipating a 15-year-old unless you have a child." And so I had a child so that I could be emancipated. And then when I had this being in front of me, it was all encompassing to me to not fail. And then I went through a period where my mother's image to me was, I'm going to be better than her. And it transformed itself the more I realized now you're a mother, you are your mother. It transformed in me to uplift her image. And so everything that I did with my children was to vindicate my mother and to try to replicate my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that, you know, what I gave, you know, it turned into, you know, I'm going to evolve us. And I remember saying that to myself one day, I'm going to evolve us. I felt like I was sort of a disappointment to my grandmother, because my grandmother still looks at me now and says, you should have been on Michelle Obama. But, you know, and so, I didn't want to be a disappointment to her. I love her. I think, like, I'm amazed by her. I'm amazed by her. And so I didn't want to disappoint her, and I just channeled all of that into my children. And I looked at my own people, and I looked at my children's fathers, and I saw what their mother, what I thought, you know, what I judged as their mothers doing wrong. And, you know, for good or bad, I did that, you know. And I said, you know, I used to joke with their dads all the time and say, I'm your Jesus. I took the, you know, what you had, and I evolved it, and I gave it a second life. And so, you know, it was some, you know, braggadocious up in there, but it also was like, it's just my mission for my children not to be mental slaves. It's my mission to uplift the image of my mother. It's my mission to redeem myself. For all the negative things that young black men could say about me. It's my mission that they're not able to say that about my children or my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren. And one of the most pertinent things that I've learned along the way, I think, a saying is that primitive man thinks about himself and evolved man thinks about his children and grandchildren. And I want to be an evolved being. I don't, you know, I want to be in the world but not of it.
Well, I really appreciate you, sister. Are you working with any young women?
Well, I do. I establish gardens all around the country. So I find sisters that, and I give away curriculum. And so women that I know that or that I meet that want to learn how to work with herbs, I teach sisters how to be curanderas, that's folk healers. And I teach sisters how to create their own curriculums. I do the unschooling method because I know trying to replicate what's done in schools is, you know, very hard on sisters, and we often stop it and then feel like we're failing. So you can teach your children through everyday things. So
Absolutely.
I teach whatever woman comes around me, if that's what she wants to do. I have a sister coming from Seattle. She's going to stay with me for 2 weeks while I teach her how to do herbal formulations for her children in her home. I don't know if she's going to make a business out of that or what, but if she does and she's able to make an honest living out of that, then I count that all joy. So, and whatever mayor of any small town I can talk to and ask them, can I take their projects and take the children and teach them agricultural economics, then I do. I teach children how you can spend 99 cents on this pack of seeds and you can make $150 from it. That's like my greatest joy is gardening with children and young mothers. So I do that, but, you know, I just try to reach out to sisters or accept whatever sister reaches out to me. I don't have a platform or a program or a 501c3 or anything like that. I just do it, you know, I do it as I can and with whoever I can. So.
Well, how will we get in contact with you?
Lady, hold on. This one I'm going to do because I might pass the time.
Okay.
She'll give the next information. Thank you for calling, Lady Ottawa.
All right.
Thank you. All right, Oasis. This was a very learning show, stimulating show. I think the information that's been said tonight is going to be helpful for not only the males, but also for the young women and women when they go back to this. I know that when we look back at this and all this about how much it really costs to raise children, I hope I bring clarity and awareness. Cause I want people just to really think critically on this, and to stop following and keeping up with the so-called status quo of other people in regards to how we should be living. People don't understand our struggles different from other people in this country, and Black people's experience, we've gone through much worse than this, So I don't want people to take this message like it's nothing. I want them to take it real serious and really think deeply on it. That depending on where your economic situation is, you can do it, And depending on how much work you put in it, you could probably not only do it, but you could thrive in a very much uncertain economic climate we are today, So if you want to tell anybody about the websites or anything to really what to follow you and stuff, if you want to get the information, you can do it now.
Well, I just talked to Chaos, and he asked me to come on. I don't have a platform. I operate my business, Copper House Originals, on Facebook, I don't really have a platform, but I'm definitely gonna start one up soon, and I'll give you that information. My name is Osasis King, so if you look for me on Facebook, I'm sure you can find me. And I appreciate you having me. I really do, and I appreciate your callers being so gracious to me. I do.
Yeah, I would say one thing we can do, because I had Terrence, as you know, that he does food and herbs. I never brought in a woman yet in regards to the herb aspect. I might have you on in due time to come back.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, and the reason why I want to have, because it's good to hear from a male perspective on how herbs operate, but really true, when we talk about nature and we deal with Mother Nature, it's always good to hear a woman and how she goes into that kitchen and works at voodoo, that science to heal that little cut in less than a few weeks. And heck, most of I do is if you want a stronger, phallus, all right? Well, I ain't gonna stop. I'm gonna get quiet. Anyway, thank you everybody for listening to tonight's broadcast. Tune in next time for the next live stream or next podcast. Until next time, take care. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to this broadcast, and I'd like to thank special guest Osasis King. Comment, subscribe, and like this video. And always follow me on Twitter at ChaosReign7. Until next time,
let the chaos reign.